start many months before the movie even hires anyone. We do a huge mood board. We say these are the colors that are coding the movie. The greens should be only for Elizabeth. The blues should be Harlander and the brother and the father. The red is only for the mother and Victor. And then when we have all these documents, we have a dialogue. And Kate's wardrobe captures that.
Guillermo said to me, I don't want fusty old period for this, you know, it needs to be of its own language. At the very beginning of a film, I always respond to the script with a response in terms of images and a mood board, and I kind of use this for discussions with Guillermo. It gives me a map and it gives the team a feel for fabrics and colours and things to respond to as well.
I wanted to make the costumes feel modern. I didn't want you to see a pastel-colored period piece. I wanted Victor to be dressed like Mick Jagger.
I remember first seeing Kate's drawings with different ideas taken from pictures off the internet, kind of these strange amalgams, and seeing these incredible costumes. And so you kind of come in and I put these things on and see what they feel like and try to pretend a little bit that I belong. That's the first feeling, you know, just approaching it.
As we gather research, many drawings are made. I think we've got hundreds of drawings of Victor, and then one day Guillermo was walking casually past and he went, well, that's my Victor right there, and then we went with that one, and that developed into fittings with Oscar and became the layered wardrobe that he has now.
One of the first things that happens with characters is the initial questions. What are the elements of this guy? Is he trying to look a certain way? Is he not? Is he trying to provoke? How does that translate into how the story progresses? And what happens when he has a little bit more money? What does he put on? The costume fitting started to be a place to start collaborating and realizing we're actually building this character together. Especially when we got to the creation of the creature and the way he takes off pieces or adds pieces and what is that saying about his inner life. I got so much information from that.
Mike had done a couple of early maquettes for the creature, which were so beautiful, you know, with all those beautiful lines and that pinky red running through it. And that starts informing me about how I can utilize those things within the clothes or costume.
I talked with Kate to see what would emphasize this creature, his length and his height, and his elegance. And Kate is a master at this type of character. So the costume was reflecting the creature's look as well.
A simple coat has taken quite a few weeks of R&D. So the idea was the creature finds his coat in an old burial ground of soldiers from the Crimean War. So we thought it was a beautiful idea to have the imprint of the skeletons on the coat. So we created sort of spines and things. The evolution of this coat goes through a lot of stages and transitions with the journey to the Arctic and his visit to the mill. So every time he's in an environment, qualities of his garment change. We can play with it a bit more.
Yeah, I would leave only the eyes.
Okay. It's interesting because we did months and months of concept work, and then Guillermo is improvising all the time through the process. So your actor comes and it's like you've almost got to let go and see what falls. A lot of your job is sort of reacting to things to support what's happening on set. There's huge collaboration in that. Not to mention Mia as part of that collaboration as well.
We had so many costume fittings. The level of craftsmanship is unparalleled. I've never experienced anything quite like it. I was always looking forward to my fitting because I was always able to get a little bit more information and to see how Kate was looking at the story as a whole and my relation to other characters and how the dress was a language for that.
It's a question about Elizabeth's environment and the books that she loves and nature, and how do we incorporate that into her clothing to make it unique. We took traditional garments like a cape shawl, pelerine of the period that responded to sort of the beetle and moth imagery that Guillermo likes to use, and we developed these into sort of fractal body patterns. When you look at beetles and things, their patterns are so big, but then we had to sort of work out how we could apply patterns or delicate layers. And we developed this artwork that took months of fractal patterns and mixing blood cells and malachites and that together, which is all part of this nod to the themes of nature. We also have been playing with the idea of X-rays, and we've been developing this on tools and things like that to play with overlays so it's not so flat and saturated. So we've been trying to capture that with Mia's clothing.
And action.
There's a dress for a moment on the heath with her and Victor in his full seduction mode. And we're looking at these beautiful stones that art department have created. They have these swirling patterns in them.
Kate's done some incredible things with taking patterns from our sets and using them in the costumes.
Kate knows that her wardrobe is a piece of color and a piece of shape and a piece of information and a piece of beauty within a set. So Tamara and her, very important that they have a dialogue together.
Tamara's great at sharing every part of their process with us, and so we look at the work they're doing and we reflect her architecture and things with our department.
You don't feel wardrobe pulling one way and architecture pulling another. These are not isolated ideas that occur at the same time. You're directing an opera and you're leading to the same emotional point.